So we're here now in between games 1 and games 2 with what Alan sideboarded. So for the sake of this, I'm going to be Alan and explain his sideboarding and why I believed he sideboarded this particular way. So according to the magic of past technology, Alan sided in Journey to Nowhere and Choke, and sided out Blightsteel Colossus and Mother of Runes. Now, Batterskull and Mother of Runes.
I'm the Blightsteel Colossus player.
Now, I'm guessing he brings in Choke because Russell is playing predominantly mono blue. He is playing a few red cards, but they're mainly islands anyways. And he's bringing the Journey to Nowhere to answer the big fatties. Now, I personally wouldn't have done that because I'm guessing, I don't know what Russell sideboarded, but they're not very good against Alan's deck anyways. So I think that he probably overthought about it. I definitely would have brought in Choke. Choke is a very, very good card against blue control decks, and taking out Batterskull and Mother of Runes aren't very good in this particular matchup. Russell doesn't really have a lot of spot removal, which makes Mother of Runes really bad, and Batterskull is really, really slow against a combo deck, and not where you want it to be, siding by tapping all your lands in turn 5 for Batterskull. It doesn't have enough impact, and it's not very effective against the blue decks, and especially against the combo decks, which Russell's deck sort of is. And we also have Russell sideboarding, which he's able to explain to himself actually. So Russell?
Yeah, certainly. No, I agree. Alan's deck was very, it's a very hateful deck, and he just sort of tuned out the worst hate cards with some good ones for myself. My outs were Inkwell Leviathan. He's not running islands, so there's no point having a pseudo-unblockable creature if it's not really doing much. It might be an error. Engineered Explosives. He doesn't run many permanents under 2 that really impact me. The big ones are what really puts the nail in the coffin, and with blue and red mana I can only get up to 2. It's mainly good against tokens. 2 hours, 4 spike and days. The reason being behind this is he does run a lot of disruptive spells, and just spending these sort of early cantrips, sort of early counter spells just to counter these discard spells wasn't really effective, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, on that point I really agree with that. When I played mono blue Tinker for the top 8, and I also played Alan in the quarters, and I also sided out the counter spells. The reason being is, in my opinion, is that they're not very good against the black discard spells, because you're continuously getting your hand stripped very early, and then you're continuously trying to top deck your way out of it. And if you're top decking counter spell, it's not a very, very good answer to them, because they're very reactive, and you want to be proactive in that matchup, especially when they're stripping your hand, which leaves them very often to be tapped out, which gives you a lot of windows of opportunity to get ahead and to get yourself into a game-winning state position. So I fully agree with that, taking out those, especially those very low-impact counter spells like Daze, especially with Alan as well, running quite a few mana dorks as well. Daze becomes very ineffective very fast.
Oh, certainly.
So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, they're very much very good against combo matchups or in counter wars, which just aren't really going to happen. So I put in some more high impact cards, those being Ruination. Alan's playing a 3-colour deck, very heavily relying on sort of dual lands, ABR dual lands, Ravnica shock lands, that sort of thing, a lot of non-basics, which in game 2 you will see was quite good at pretty much blowing up his entire mana base. In game Pyroclasm, he's running a lot of dorks, a lot of 2/2s that just really efficient hate bears that beat me down. A nice cheap sweeper is very good against those. Grafdigger's Cage, quite important against Green Sun Zenith, which is a huge tutor engine in his deck. And I'm not sure if he was playing Birthing Pod, but even if he wasn't, it's just a good card to stop Green Sun Zenith, which is quite a scary card against me. And finally Treachery, he's a creature-based deck, and having something to steal his creatures and still hold up some counter magic is pretty important to me.
Treachery's really good. I also brought it in against Alan in my sideboard as well, and it was very good. So basically Russell is down a game in game 1, we're now heading to game 2. Let's see if my co-commentator can even the ledger. And we are back for game 2 of the Highlander finals, with Russell cutting down a game against Alan Carey. So players are just drawing their hands at the moment for game 2. And as you can see, Russell Cutting has a hand of Polluted Delta, Volcanic Island, Mana Leak, Snapcaster Mage, Fact or Fiction, or the Spaghetti Monster.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this hand. It is a virtual Mulder 6, but that is a very strong 6 that I'm holding. I'm not going to risk putting this one away.
And Alan has also drawn his hand of 7, waiting for the decision from Russ. And we don't get to see Alan's hand, but he looks like he mulliganed very fast. I see a Batterskull.
Batterskull? That doesn't seem like a good card to keep. There's a Dark Confidant in there. that would have been a pretty good card against me, but alas.
He mulligans to Russell's Adamation.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about my opponent mulliganing. When I'm holding a Mana Leak, a Snapcaster Mage, I only have one counter spell, so the less spells my opponent has, the better for me.
Yeah, for sure. Especially being down a game.
Yeah, any advantage is good.
Always mulligan always gives you a better chance at
Yeah,
evening of the ledger.
and like I say, I'm basically at 6 anyway with an Emrakul, so it's really just evening the odds.
Yeah, for sure.
In a sense. Alan likes to take a while shuffling.
He always likes to tell a magic story as he's shuffling.
Yeah, I believe he was telling me something about that time that I already heard about, but they're always entertaining.
Did you know he got the summoning trap twice once against Pro Tour player Jason Rankin?
I have heard that story. It was one of the better ones.
It was, and Alan loves telling Pro Tour player Jason Rankin about it all the time.
Look, I'm a big fan of Pro Tour player Jason Rankin, so it's always nice to hear him actually lose a game of Magic now and again.
It's very true, as Alan is still shuffling.
I do tend to warn him to hurry up a bit. We are on camera, but I'm sure we can keep you entertained here at home. So here we are finally. I'm going to
he offers his deck up for the cut.
Here, I always like to feel out my opponent's hand and deck when I present it. So if you notice me do any sort of weird hand movements, that's what that is. I don't know. It's always just nice to put people on tilt when you can.
It always is.
And here you can see I like the feel at the top of his deck.
Do a little bit of voodoo.
A little bit of voodoo.
Giving him some bad karma.
Yeah, well, I need every bit of good karma I can get. So
that's true. And Alan draws his hand of 6.
Sexy 6, as we like to say.
And it is a hand of Marsh Flats, Overgrown Tomb, Inverted Catacombs, Nature's Claim, Liliana of the Vale, and Sylvan Library.
Only one of these cards is particularly good against me straight up. That's the Sylvan Library, but Liliana's also pretty good.
And we are here for game 2 as Russell just plays a Polluted Delta and passes the turn back to Alan, who draws a Thrun for his turn and puts an Overgrown Tomb into play tap. End of Alan's turn, Russell sacks the Polluted Delta. Going to get, I believe he just got I got
a steam
vent.
Yeah,
right,
good to fix my red and blue mana.
It is a very... It is an especially good because you want to play the 2 life, so you always want to do the life efficiency and the mana efficiency at the same time.
Lets me set up for a Volcanic Island Mana Link next turn as well.
Yeah, for sure. As he's just shuffling, he's finishing his search effect. He has to untap and play his turn 2.
Make sure it's nice and rippled, nice and randomised.
Make sure the moustaches are pointing the right way.
Yeah, can't be done for deck collusion and the like. And here we are for turn 2.
And he, as Russell untaps for turn 2, draws an island, plays the Volcanic Island and ships the turn back to Alan, who untaps also for his turn and draws... He drew a Plains, which is not really an effective draw. So Alan has a very interesting decision here, actually. So he can either play the land, play the Liliana and have the risk of getting counterspell, or he can hold it back and wait for a better window of opportunity to cast it. Now, if I was in Alan's spot, I would have just ran out the Sylvan Library, because he has the Liliana Veil, so you sort of want to bait a counterspell out for the Sylvan to be able to play the Liliana the following turn. Now, Alan has not played any hand disruptions at this point in time, so he doesn't know what's in Russell's hand. What are your thoughts, Russ?
Always tough to stand on a couple of blue lands and a grip full of 7 against the control player, but I agree with you. Just playing spells to get rid of my counters is always good, but he just ships the turn.
He just ships the turn with
which I'm really happy about. I just want to draw cards and play
when
lands.
there's no pressures on you, it's always better for you. So you just draw a Remand for a turn, play an island, ship the turn.
Draw a Remand here. Also another counterspell. This just increases my ability to stall the game.
And also makes it harder and harder for Alan to resolve a spell. But at the end of that turn, Alan sacks the Verdant Catacombs. I believe he goes to search a basic land to play around the back to basics and Blood Moon in your deck.
Yeah, exactly. I've also got Ruination, so I'm trying to sort of pretend to be a fair deck, but I do have the upside win factor between Sneak Attack and Tinker.
Trying to punish the greedy mana bases of the format that is Highlander.
Exactly. A lot of people, especially the first time around, really like to just stuff every sort of jewel and utility land in their deck.
Especially with the recent points changes, where
exactly.
where they put a point on Wasteland,
yes,
which means that Wasteland was a good card at keeping those sort of decks in check. But now that Wasteland's pointed, it's still seeing quite a lot of play, but nowhere near as much play as it was previously, which gives people playing greedy mana bases more of a chance, sort of.
Certainly, it used to be auto include in any deck, but these days Blood Moon and Back to Basics do go up in value.
That's right. And as Alan untaps for his turn and draws a Temple Garden, and it's still not at this particular point looking great for Alan. You're both still on 19, but Alan hasn't actually played a spell yet, and which is very important in this matchup.
I'm happy to play the control game here.
So
He just passes back.
Plays the land of passes. Russell plays an island for his turn, gets super excited, and plays Ruination.
Yeah,
Now, Ruination is a card a lot of people wouldn't have seen. Can you just explain to us what Ruination actually does?
It's 4 mana, 3 and a red, destroys all non-basic lands. It's sort of my third Blood Moon on back to basics.
That's very spicy.
It's a pretty spicy card. In this case, it puts him down to a forest and me to 2 islands, so I'm up a land. We both lose 2, but
you're already up a card from the mulligan as well.
Exactly, and I feel as though putting him down to a single colour is more important when I'm only holding mono blue cards in my hand at this point.
For sure. So Alan gets untapped for his turn with that draw, plays the Marsh Flats because he drew the Inquisition, sacks the Marsh Flats, gets a basic again. Still playing around the two land hoses in your deck in back to basics and Blood Moon, and he makes a very interesting decision here. Actually, he doesn't play the Sylvan Library.
I'd definitely play that.
I would have definitely played as well, but he goes with the Inquisition.
It's good. It's information which he values highly, which I think isn't necessarily incorrect, but
I definitely don't feel like it was the most optimal play at this point in time.
It's not utilising his mana correctly. I mean, he holds up Nature's Claim, but at this point, I can only play maybe a back to basics, which does nothing.
Exactly right. So he plays Inquisition because revealing Russell's hand, and Russell's hand is a very, very good hand.
Exactly. I've got a Fact of Fiction in the wings. I've got 3 2-mana spells.
With this Inquisition, I sort of feel like he's put himself into a wall when he has to take that Snapcaster.
Exactly.
Especially with all the counter spells. If he doesn't take the Snapcaster, if you just draw lands for the turn, you sort of lock him out of the game.
Exactly.
Where rather if he draws spells, he can actually get around those counter spells. So
capitalise a little bit. If he takes something aside from the Snapcaster, I still have 2 counter spells effectively.
Exactly. So he just takes a Snapcaster, ships the turn straight back to Russ. Russ untaps for his turn and draws a Venser, which is
it's a bit of a poor draw here. I'm pretty sad. I really needed a land to get back into this game, but I'm still pretty much fairly well alive, especially between that Reminder Mana Leak.
For sure.
Here Alan does draw a land, again a basic, which is pretty important. He now has access to all of his coloured mana.
And plays around the Blood Moon, but he drew the Lingering Souls for a turn and decided just to run it out there.
And I'm happy to remind that, and I draw an island, which gets me back in the game. Here I draw a top, one of the ways I can smooth out my draws and further increase my sort of advantage in this game while still holding up Mana Leak.
For sure. Top's a very good card, especially in this form of the game where you're playing a lot of draw go.
Alan draws the Stoneforge Mystic, a pretty important card. It does let him get any sort of utility artifact equipment against me. Mizal's Jitte, maybe a blue protection sword. He plays that, and I really have no choice but to Mana Leak it, as just the fear of the unknown is enough to draw that out of me.
Yeah, for sure. Stoneforge Mystic is a pointed card in Highlands with 1 point out of the 7 points in the Highlander
really?
format.
I didn't know that.
It's only a recent change, believe it or not.
Incredible card. I can see why. Here I draw a
It is
repeal.
banned in multiple formats.
Well,
and that multiple format being modern.
That is the only format I really care about apart from 7 points.
That's true.
Here he runs out that Sylvan Library, and I don't actually have any counter spells left for it. I'm going to let that resolve. Now we both have a sort of card advantage engine, me in the top, him in the library, and here I'm going to top and try and smooth out my draw step.
Yeah, for sure.
Drawing islands, again, all I want to do with holding Fact or Fiction and Venser now, I have a way to sort of prevent him from playing a spell if I need to, but if he doesn't play anything of note, that Fact or Fiction is just going to dig me
It's just
going to
get you pile in the advantage and just get it going pretty much. So
here Alan misses his Sylvan Library trigger.
Misses it and snap draws that Tarmogoyf.
Which I'm, not sad to see.
Sylvan Library is a very difficult card, especially he is using the old school Legends version, which has
been
basically been completely errated.
Yeah, it doesn't do what it says anymore. Here, if he had used it correctly, as he is on a high life total, it would allow him to perhaps draw some more cards and get back into the game, but as he has just snapped with that card in his hand, I'm not going to let him, try and re-resolve that.
Yeah, for sure. Even though that this event was run at regular competitive enforcement level, we are still playing for quite a good first prize was $120 at Infinity Games.
Yeah, and just level of professionalism is an important part to maintain. Here he plays the voice. I'm going to respond with a Fact or Fiction. Venturing it doesn't do much, and I'd rather just get some cards.
Yeah, so at this point, with the fact the fiction reveal, see the Sidnoid, the Fairness, Blightsteel, Colossal Island, and Sneak Attack, which are 5 very powerful cards.
Yeah, he does not want to give me that red source
and he
with
just
the Sneak
basically
Attack.
snap puts 4 cards into one pile and Sneak Attack by itself.
I'm going to grab Sneak
Now
Attack.
you went for the very aggressive route and took the Sneak Attack. What was your thought process behind that decision?
Look, at this point, I've got enough lands to play basically all of my hand. I've got the Emrakul in hand for the Sneak Attack, which is basically an instant win, and I do get to shuffle the Blightsteel Colossus back into my deck, and I don't really want the artifact lands at this point anyway.
It's true. It's true. Like, it's always better to take the extra cards, but at that point in time, Sneak Attack is more of an impactful card than the other 4 cards.
Certainly.
So at this point, Russell gets to use the Divining Top, puts an island on top, plays the island, ships the turn back to Alan. Alan this time actually remembers his Sylvan Library trigger. I think he does anyways.
Yes, he does remember it. He's still at 18 life, and again, we discussed the possibility of perhaps drawing some extra cards.
Yeah.
But
So at the moment, I can see a Sack Clan, a Swamp, and a Birds of Paradise as the 3 cards he's revealed.
none of these cards are particularly
None of
good.
these cards are actually any good at this point in time.
Not worth
So
4 life, no.
they're definitely not, especially because you have the Sack Land. So you just basically just take the Sack Land, sack the lane,
Reset your deck.
reset your deck, and go for it again.
Exactly. We're really good.
Which is exactly what he does. So
Really
he
good play
takes
on
the
his
Misty
part.
Rainforest, sacks the Misty Rainforest, which brings Alan's life total down to 17 life points. So at the moment, it's 17 plays to 19 of Russell.
Getting close to that magical 15 I'm searching for with that Emrakul in hand. That's all I want to see. Here he fetches out a Bayou, I believe, which gives him the double black to play Liliana.
Which gives him the double black for the old Lily of the Vale.
She's quite a strong card against me. So here I believe he
You have 4 of mana. He just runs it out.
yeah, he runs
Now
it
you
out.
take a very aggressive pass. Now you have Venser in hand, so you can Venser the Liana on the stack to counter it. But instead,
I'm going deep.
You go balls deep. You go down the Sensei's Divining route.
I see the Brainstorm.
You
third
see the
card,
Brainstorm. So you now can even go
and a
deeper.
miscalculation. I see a miscalculation
And you
at this
see
point.
and you see the miscount. So you go miscal even. So you go super deep.
Yeah.
So you just put the Brainstorm on top.
Yes.
Spin the top up to the top of the library,
That
which
lets
is
me-
what you're doing.
Let me redraw the Sensei's Divining Top
Which
and
re-
the
yeah.
miscalculation.
And then even with that as well, you revealed Blightsteel. So
Yes.
that means you still get to put Blightsteel down the bottom of the 3 cards. So you're not going to draw it anytime soon.
Yeah, that guy likes to come to the top of my deck. I really don't like him there. I want him in the deck, not on top.
You never want Blightsteel in your hand.
No.
So here, you Brainstorm. So you draw the Sensei's Divining Top, the Blightsteel Colossus, and
Miscalculation.
Miscalculation. So you get to put the Miscal on top,
And then I'm going to miscalc that Liliana.
and then you
rid
get
of
to Miscal, which does put 2 Liliana on the puts 2 Voiceless Resurgence tokens into play.
It is pretty bad for me. I mean, it gets a bit of pressure, but they can't attack this turn.
But Alan
so.
gets into the red zone at this point and knocks Russell down to 17. So at the moment, it's 17 apiece.
I do digress. There is one time that you want a Blightsteel in hand, and that's when you have Sneak Attack or a Show and Tell.
That's
which I have done throughout the tournament. In the previous round against Luke Davinsky, I did use a Blightsteel Colossus to crush him to death with a Show and Tell. So that was pretty fun.
It's always good.
Here I'm just going to keep spinning.
Spinning the top. So at the moment, you reveal Pyroclasm, Blightsteel, and a 3rd card that I can't see.
Well, Pyroclasm is very good for me if I can play it, because it basically wipes his board.
Yeah, Pyroclasm seems fairly insane against Alan's deck, especially because he does play a lot of creatures, but a lot of his creatures don't have a very high toughness.
Yeah.
So Pyroclasm pretty much just wrecks his specific type of deck.
Yes.
And especially with the build that he went, really wrecks his deck.
He's heavily invested in what's called the hate bear strategy, and bears being 2/2s don't really very well against
That's
red
very true. So
2
you
damage.
get to repeal a token here. You draw the Pyroclasm, which allows you to spin the top again to
Just
try
drawing
and
deep, hitting that red source.
Trying to hit that red source,
Which I get.
which you do eventually hit in Sulphur Falls.
Yeah.
So you spin the top, you get the Sulphur Falls. You have to put that into play, and then you get the Pyroclasm his board, which does leave him with a 1/1, but it's a lot better for you than what it was 30 seconds ago when you had 3 dudes in play.
Plus, it allows me to get that Sneak Attack in play. Now I just need a second red source to both play and cast an Emrakul for free, basically. So,
Yeah, for sure.
So here
you
he just packs it up.
Pyroclasm, he remembers the voice token and has a 1/1 in play.
Very unfortunate for me there.
So Russell gets to ship the turn, and Alan gets to use his Sylvan Library. So he reveals a Scrubland, Journey to Nowhere, and a Swords to Plowshare with the Silver Laria, which again is a pretty big whiff on Alan's part. None of those cards are really that impactful in this matchup.
Well, we know he's got Sneak Attack in my hand, so perhaps Swords to Plowshare is useful.
Swords is probably
Colossus,
okay, but it's not very good, especially when Alan has a handful of already not the world's best cards in this matchup, and he already has 4 lands in play, so he doesn't really need a land. But he'd probably still take the land anyways.
You might just dig deeper just so you don't have to redraw next turn, basically.
Yeah, that's also a valid point. He could have also drawn an extra dead card, that way giving you more opportunities to draw relevant and live during the following turns.
Furthermore, he's got Lingering Souls, which will allow him to play and cast it, which would be very important in the next turn, which we'll see why soon, which would have given him more bodies on the field.
Yeah, for sure. But he decided not to draw extra cards. He just drew the Janina Nowhere, plays the Thron the Last Troll, which is very good because it's uncounterable and has hexproof.
Quite good against blue decks in general, but thankfully I'm not just a blue deck.
So Russell gets untapped for his turn, draws the top, plays the top, spins the top.
Hits the Scalding Tarn.
Hits the Scalding Tarn, which basically allows him to put the Flying Spaghetti Monster himself into play.
Which I do love doing.
Which he got very excited at this point of time and was...
How can he not be?
It's always fun destroying 6 of your opponent's permanents.
And hitting for 15, of course.
Wiggling his way to 15 points of damage.
Yes. Here I am just, still abiding by the rules, making sure my deck's sufficiently randomized, but I'm quite excited at this point, as it does look like the win's basically there for me. I'm still holding Venser, which...
With a sneak attack in play. Which gives it haste, and then Emrakul flies in for 6...
Soaring in
for
gloriously.
6 permanents that will get entered into the graveyard.
Alan does not have 15 squirrels to block with, so I think that's going to get through.
So Alan is thinking which permanent. He has 7 permanents in play, so he gets to keep one of those lucky permanents in play.
Here I am.
So he sacks everything here except for the forest, and then Emrakul flies in for 15 points of damage, which drops Alan Carey's life total down to 2 points.
What do you think of keeping the forest over something like a Thron? I now have no sort of anything on the board.
Well, I think that the forest is probably... It's okay because he has the Nature's Claim in hand.
Certainly.
Which does get to kill the sneak attack.
That's pretty good.
But...
And a Tarmogoyf.
And you probably can't realistically win with the Thron undamaged because that's 3 turns and that would require you to draw really badly over 3 turns. So he made the right call, I believe. So you play the Scrub. He plays the Scrub land and he Nature's Claims the sneak attack.
I'm fine with.
Which is fine for you, but gives Alan a glimmer of hope to be able to pull himself out of this
He doesn't know
match.
about the Venser. He thinks he can just slam a Tarmogoyf next turn to stabilize.
Yeah. So you draw the back to basics, which isn't really relevant, but it can restrict him down. So you pay 3 mana, leaving 4 mana open for that Venser, and you play the back to basics and chip the turn.
Kind of giving him another target to waste his mana on, because he doesn't like the idea of it, but he's just going to play the Tarmogoyf.
He's just going to play the Tarmogoyf.
And I'm going to respond with Venser.
Snap plays the Venser, which bounces the thing, which enables you to attack Alan down to 0, and will even the ledger here in Game 2 of the Infinity Games Highlander League as Russell swings in for the win.
He shows me a sword there, but doesn't matter. He's tapped out.
We'll be back soon for the third and final game of the Infinity Games Highlander League. Who will be the champion?